Now, where do we stand and what's our position now? We have one unique element of status with the new Trump administration, and that's this. We are the other partners in the only alliance that Donald Trump did not criticise. But there's a responsibility upon us to have a different sort of conversation. We are going to have to, not simply on our behalf, but also on behalf of the countries in the region, leverage that relationship. And there will be an expectation that we will.
There's something about foreign policy that makes Australians feel uncomfortable. It's ceaselessly interactive processes, the adjustments and compromises it requires, the close attention it demands, its backroom nature, the stuffy envoys of popular fiction. None of these sit easily with us, and that's in part why defence and security policy has been so much more central to Australians' sense of themselves in the world, and why the story we tell ourselves is more often one of diggers and diplomats.
The Greens argue it's time for our nation's leaders to debate the fundamentals of Australia's alliance with the United States and not just to tinker around the edges. We must not shy away from questioning an alliance that is 70 years old, or the opportunity to forge our own independent foreign policy path. We believe that now is the time for us to end ANZUS and renegotiate the terms of our relationship with the US based on shared goals.
So what are the principles that underpin the Labor foreign policy tradition? Well, the starting point is the responsibility of national government to protect and advance the welfare of Australia, the territorial integrity of our country, the security of our people, the prosperity of our economy and the values of our society. We see Australia as a strong, outward-looking, independent nation that acts in the international arena both to secure our national interest and to pursue a better world in partnership with other countries. We don't accept that there has to be an unbridgeable dichotomy in international affairs between realism and idealism, or between nationalism and internationalism.
With Cameron, the focus has very much been on the Trump election and what that means for Australian strategic and defence policy, and potentially what a Trump administration will or won't do. As someone from the Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade, it's all fascinating insight, and I look forward to the later sessions of the day.
There are two parts of Australia. The mining states of WA and Queensland are on the other side of the mining boom, and they don't feel like their kids are going to thrive in the 21st century. The odds are we've probably collected, especially after 25 years of uninterrupted growth, enough winners to be able to thrive in the 21st century. But I think we need to be aware of where the danger signs are in our political map, and that is we have to keep everybody else a part of this 21st century story. So you've got states that are broken apart. The challenge for national leadership is to bring them back into the conversation.
I really liked Alan Gyngell's talk about foreign policy and about sort of the future of foreign policy, but also all of the speakers touching on the Australia-US alliance and how that may or may not change with the election of Donald Trump.
And I was appointed by Jonathan Mann to the first Global Commission on AIDS of the World Health Organization. And essentially what I did, what we did, and Jonathan Mann wanted, was to sell to the international community the Australian and New Zealand solution to HIV, without antiretrovirals, without ways to solve palliate the disease, to get the countries to do a contradictory thing, an apparently paradoxical thing, to reach out to the people who were at risk or who were infected in order that they would take some control of their actions and prevent the spread of the virus. And so I look back on those days, really an occasion of Australian leadership, Australian example, a political example at home, good things were being done, and effectively that became the policy of the World Health Organization, then later the policy of the World UN AIDS, and was effectively sold to the international community.
It can be quite a small epiphany, and I'm sure many of you know more than I, to gradually realise that that grid-like structure which represents our civil society, and it introduces to many more people than in those old notions of governance and leadership, of giving beyond one's core group. That is the critical thing.